Honourable Member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and let me start by saying that I will be sharing my time with the member from Sarnia-Lambton. And, Madam Speaker, I would just, before I get into the substance of Bill C-50, state unequivocally how important it is to acknowledge the conflict that is taking place in Israel and Gaza, and how, as Canadians, to stand with Israel in the right for them to defend themselves, and, of course, looking out for the many victims of this conflict, but to ensure that Israel has that support. Madam Speaker, here we are. And I would just note, when I asked a question a few minutes ago from the member from the Liberal Party who preceded me, said that I didn't understand what this bill is about. Well, Madam Speaker, let me make something, and they're clapping about that. But what they're clapping is seeing, Madam Speaker, that there are going to be Canadians that descend into poverty because this government forces them that direction. Absolutely. Madam Speaker, they are going to see that Canada is pushed to the back of the line when it comes to our ability to displace dictator crude and dictator gas. Madam Speaker, the unbelievable ignorance that exists from those Liberal members that would suggest that Canada, and that those of us that actually understand the energy sector, not just traditional oil and gas, although that is a big part of what the opportunity that Canada offers, but truly understand the full extent of what Canada's energy future can be, it is those Liberals that are truly dragging behind and dragging us down. Madam Speaker, they should truly be ashamed of themselves, and I dare that member to come to my constituency and look my constituents in the eye and tell them why they don't deserve good-paying jobs. Tell them why they are, and accuse them. The accusations that those members make, accusing my constituents of somehow not caring for the environment, Madam Speaker, it is disgraceful, it is shameful, and it shows that they have lost the moral authority to govern on these issues, especially, Madam Speaker, when you look at the results. Let's look at the facts. When it comes to Canada's energy future, the reality is clear. Canada can be a world leader if not held back by these Liberals on whether it's the so-called just transition, of which there is nothing just about it, or when it comes to the No More Pipelines Bill C-69, which we just saw thumped down by the Supreme Court and called unconstitutional because of this government's meddling in provincial affairs. Madam Speaker, this government is holding back Canada's potential to be a world leader. You know, the Prime Minister, shortly after he was elected, said that Canada was back. Well, Madam Speaker, now after 8 years, the evidence is so very clear that he has been holding Canada back every step of the way, and the world is less safe because of it. The world has a less clean environment because of it, and that is the record of those prime ministers and their coalition partners in the NDP, and they should rightfully be ashamed of themselves. So, Madam Speaker, when it comes to what we are debating here today, I would encourage us to keep looking at the facts. We, as Canadians, have the ability to see, the conversation around net zero, let's go there. The conversation around net zero. Here's the reality, Madam Speaker. Canada could flip a switch. Canada could flip a switch today and we would reduce global emissions by 1.6%. 1.6%. Or we could be world leaders, and we could encourage investment in our energy sector, encourage investment in traditional oil and gas, encourage investment in clean tech, of which I support, Madam Speaker. We could do that. Or, and here's the results. Canada reduces emissions 1.6% by throwing our people into poverty, shutting down our factories, making it so that nobody can afford to live in this country, and that the only thing that has any ability to resemble something of prosperity is those who are connected to a Liberal government where they pick winners and losers. 1.6% of emissions globally would go down. We could flip the switch tomorrow. Or, and here's the contrast, Madam Speaker, between what Conservatives are offering and what Liberals are offering. We could empower Canadians, empower Canadian industry, and use the natural resources that are so abundant in this country. And we could reduce emissions globally by multiple factors of that 1.6% by getting our clean, green LNG to markets that are currently burning coal. And get this, Madam Speaker, if you can believe it, while that environment minister went to China, to a communist-controlled so-called environmental forum, of which he is one of the vice chairs of. He went there and encouraged and promoted Chinese...
I'm sorry, I'm just going to stop the honourable member. There seems to be either some chit-chat or some heckling going on. I just want to make sure that members recognize that there is debate happening in the House, and if they want to have conversations, or if they should take it outside, if they want to think out loud, they should be thinking to themselves and waiting for questions and comments. The honourable member, order, and that includes parliamentary secretaries as well. So the honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot.
So, Madam Speaker, that environment minister went to China and promoted all the great work that the communist dictatorship in Beijing was doing on the environment, yet it is that country that is building coal-fired generation stations as we speak. Yet, Madam Speaker, we could be displacing that coal with clean, green Canadian LNG. We could be exporting nuclear technology around the world to make sure that we are displacing more emissions-intensive forms of energy. Madam Speaker, we could be displacing the Russian crude that is holding the European continent hostage. We could be ensuring that it is Canadian expertise and energy that is actually solving the world's problems, but under these Liberals and under their lack of an understanding of what is just in this world, that we are being held back. And I would like to just clarify one thing. You know, those Liberals seem to think that Conservatives somehow don't support clean energy. Well, it couldn't be further from the truth, Madam Speaker. And the reason why I can say that definitively is I am a massive proponent of energy investment of all kinds. So whether that be new clean tech or whether that be traditional forms, Madam Speaker, we should be a world leader in all forms. But the difference between, again, the Liberal philosophy, which is to hold people down, hold them and drown out anything that they don't agree with, that's what they believe, whereas Conservatives are we offer a clear alternative. And we say, let's empower people to do what's best for them. Let's make sure that it's not the government that picks winners and losers, Madam Speaker, but it is the ability for industry and innovators and ultimately Canadians to do what is best for themselves, for our country. And Madam Speaker, when we're doing what's best for Canada, we are doing what is best for the world, and the entire planet will benefit from Canadian leadership.
Absolutely.
So, Madam Speaker, when it comes to, again, let's look at some of the facts. We have this C-50 could lead to as many as 170,000 jobs lost, including many of which would be in my constituency. I dare those Liberals to look my constituents in the eye and tell them why their jobs don't matter. Madam Speaker, we could see up to close to 500,000 indirect jobs lost. So, Madam Speaker, that is the whole spectrum from those, and I'm not sure if the Liberals realize this, but a lot of the clean tech jobs depend on affiliated industries that also do work in our traditional energy sector. Madam Speaker, we need to also look at realistic outcomes to ensure that when we pass public policy in this place, that it will actually accomplish the objective. Nothing in this bill will benefit Canadians. Nothing in this bill will be just. Nothing in this bill will lower emissions. And nothing in this bill will lead to a prosperous future for Canadians. Yet, we see the government pushing forward, using manicured talking points that are somehow supposed to take the place of realistic and concrete solutions. Well, Madam Speaker, the facts speak for themselves. The only evidence that those Liberals can point to for even having an iota of success with emissions reductions is twofold. One, Alberta's leadership in reducing emissions, including in the energy sector. And two, they point to COVID and the lockdowns associated with it as a reason why emissions went down. Madam Speaker, it is truly shameful and a disgrace. And the fact that if it were any other part of the country, we would see those Liberal members facing they certainly wouldn't be pursuing this sort of agenda. And that leads me to the final point. It should be the job of any Prime Minister, first and foremost, to ensure that there is national unity in our country. Yet it is under this Liberal Prime Minister and those corrupt Liberals that are dividing our country in a way that I hope it can be repaired. I believe it can be, Madam Speaker. But there are so many that are losing faith in the very foundations of our institutions, the very foundations of our country, because of an ideological agenda that is not only ineffective, but is truly tearing the country apart. So, Madam Speaker, this bill needs to be defeated. This bill and the ideology and the members that support it need to be shown the door, because when it comes to the future of our country in every metric, this is the wrong direction, and it's time for a government that can bring home a future for Canada that works.